Hi, Cyprien from FFO, and welcome in this next video about Paraview. And in this tutorial, we'll study something really interesting, which is how do you automate everything you do within Paraview using Python. So, first of all, let me talk briefly why we want to do that. Because for those of you who are not so familiar with Python or with coding, you might wonder, why do I have to worry about Python or by using this kind of code when everything can be done graphically? Well, there are several reasons. First of all, uh, whenever you have a GUI, you have a certain need for manual handling. So you have to do all those operations by yourself. You have to click on the filters, go on the buttons, and basically every time you do a simulation, you have to go over all the same repetitive process. But as we are engineers, we know that if it's a repetitive process, why not automate it? Why should you do again and again the same stuff, right? Just by changing the input data. Uh, so that's when we basically need some kind of automation routines or code which can do whatever we want automatically. So what you should know is that Paraview can be driven by Python. So whatever you do within Paraview can be done also with Python. And here I have activated the Python shell. So it's some kind of command line within Paraview in which you can input some code and you can do exactly the same stuff you do by clicking on the button within this Python shell. You can record some macros. So for example, here is an example of what I'm going to show you. There is a macro tab, and this is a make sphere macro. So I created that just before, and when I click on it, it automatically goes through the sphere creation, the creation of the different filters that I need, and the change of the different options. So this is the kind of stuff I'm going to show you in today's video. There's also a second reason you might want to use Paraview with Python, is when you have very large models which require to be handled using scripting because the GUI is too slow. If your graphic card doesn't support the actual size of the model you want to handle, well, then you have no choice but to use scripting maybe to send that onto a cloud server, which will handle all the graphics much faster than your local computer can do it. Anyway, I'm not really going to talk about this during this video. I'm going to show you the basic stuff, how to run Python within the interpreter, how to create some macros, and how to eventually run some Python script from outside Paraview. So that's what I'm going to show you. So the first thing you need to know is how do you actually activate this Python shell, because by default you don't see it. So you have to go to the view and you have here Python shell. So just activate this option and then activate the onglet, and then you should be seeing this Python shell here. Now let's reset the interface. And the first thing I'm going to show you is how you create this kind of macro. So let's reset the view. And I'm going to go through a very simple process of creating a sphere and applying a simple filter. And there is something called the trace that you can use to record basically your actions. It works a bit like, I don't know if you're familiar with the actions in Photoshop or stuff like that, where you can record a macro. It's more or less the same stuff. So there is in tools, the tools menu, you have start trace. So just activate this and you have a few options that you can play with. You can record all properties, so then you'll have a very big script with everything that has been done by Paraview, or you can record only modify properties. So I'll just use this one because it's cleaner and shorter. Okay, and once you do that, you don't see anything happening, but actually what happens is that the GUI starts to record your actions. So if now I go into sources and let's say I create a sphere, don't forget to click on apply. So you see I have my sphere here. Let's say I'm interested to change a bit the theta resolution, so let's change that to 20, click on apply. So now the sphere is smoother. And let's apply a filter. So go in filter, let's apply clip filter. I'm not going for complexity here. Let's do something very, very simple so you understand the script. Okay, now I have gone through this process. And now you go into tool again and you click on stop trace. And now you see that you have all the actions that you have done recorded into a Python script. So this script, I can basically, I can save it into a normal Python file. So save it. So I can go to my desktop and save it into a Python normal text file with all this code inside. Nothing really mysterious about that. And there is save as a macro. So if you click here, it's basically the same. It's also saving to a Python text file, but this time it saved it to a special folder. And when your Python script is saved to this folder, so it's in the app data roaming Paraview macros folder. The app data is a hidden folder, so if you really want to see what's inside, you'll have to activate the hidden folders on your machine. Let's call it make sphere 2, for example. Okay, and now, well, I'll copy it to my clipboard at the same time with Control-C. Okay, let's close that. Now let's reset the view. I have nothing inside, and you see that if I go to macro, now I have my macro make sphere 2, which appears here. And if I click on it, automatically it goes through the same process I went. So here I don't even need to look at the Python script. So if your purpose is just to automate something without really looking at the code and you're not interested to go deeper into what the code means and how to play with it, then this kind of macros is the right tool for you. Let's reset and try something else. And you see that every time I reset, the Python shell also resets. So let's clear this. And let's also paste my, my code. So I can also paste the Python code from my file within this. And if I click on run script or enter, okay, it will ask me to, okay, just press enter. And it does exactly the same, basically. It creates my model. So you could do both. You can either go into macros, or you can directly input some code line by line, or paste the code right here in the Python shell. Okay, so now I have run the script from within the GUI. But let's say that I don't want the GUI. I just want to run the script without having to open the GUI and having to use either this Python shell or the macro. Well, is it possible to basically call Paraview from within your normal Python distribution? Because you know that if, let's say, let's open the PowerShell. So if you open the PowerShell and you look for the different versions of Python that you already have installed, so you can use the PyLauncher on Windows. So I'll show you py.list, and you see that I already have 4 different versions of Python installed. A 2.7 64 bits, I have 2 3.7 32 and 64, and I have a 3.8 64 bits. So and I suppose there are even more versions of Python than that installed on my computer. So if I want to launch this, or I can run a specific version using the PyLauncher, you see that I'm now opening the latest one, the 3.8. If I try to basically to import Paraview. So from paraview.simple import all. Of course, it doesn't work because I do not have Paraview installed. So actually, you will get different error message because in my distribution I have set up the Paraview environment, but Paraview is not necessarily compatible with all Python distributions. So this is the second problem I'm going to talk now. If you go on the website, so let's have a look at the documentation. So I'm now on paraview.org documentation, where I can find documentation for all the Paraview modules. Let's go to Paraview Python. And what you probably look at now is the getting started, which will tell you basically that to start, you have to use a simple module. So that's what I've tried to import. And you'll have to, if you want to use your own command line, then you'll have to use the selected pass variables, etc. So this is the Linux type of pass, and on Windows you have to put it in the Python path environment, and then this is supposed to work so with your Python. But in reality, I tried that. I just opened my Paraview folders. So this is my Paraview installation on C drive, program files, Paraview. And if you go to bin, so this is one of the link to put in the path. Then you have libs and you have site packages. So I try to put this into my path, etc. So let me show you how to do this. Edit environment variables. Then you go to Python path and you basically paste those into here, your new edit, and you put that, okay. And now your Python installation should be able to find those. But what happens is that even if my Paraview installation is able to find this, there is some kind of error or conflict with the paraview.simple module. Basically what it means is that my Python 3.8.2, the current install I have, doesn't really support this paraview.simple imports module. So what I'm trying to tell you here is that it's very difficult to do like this, and there is a much better way to use that. So the way to actually use the Python from Paraview within the command shell is to use the Python which is already pre-built and integrated to Paraview. So if I go back into my folders and I go to, I think it's, yeah, lib, and no, it's in site packages, I think. Maybe it's in bin. Yeah, it's in bin. Yeah, if you go in bin, you have quite a few executable. So you can, yeah. So you have Paraview exe, which is the GUI, and you see you have PV batch, PV data server, PV Python, PV render server, and PV server. So pvpython.exe is actually also a Python distribution which has been pre-built to run perfectly with Paraview. And this is the one which is launched within the GUI. So if you want to use Python with Paraview without having too much trouble and trying to import all the libraries in your own Python install, the best thing to do is just to use this pvpython.exe. So if you have put in the path of your environment, like I showed you right before, you go into Python path and you put the path to this folder into your Windows path, then you'll have access to this PVPython from the command line. So if I do PVP, let's say, and I click on tab, it will autocomplete, which means that it is in my path. By the way, if you just have to put it in your path, you have to reload the Windows PowerShell. So just close it and open it again. And now if I open this, you see that I have no error. And if I do import, import paraview.simple, from, well, I could do also import paraview.simple, but import all, then it works. And it basically displays also my graphic cards because I think it uses the GPU or something to compute. Okay, so it works. So the best way is just to use this pvpython.exe. Don't try to integrate the Paraview libraries within your own Python install. It could work, but really it will be really long work to find the right Python distribution, and you may have to compile it yourself. So I really don't advise you to try to do this. Just use the pvpython within Paraview. Okay, and then you can use this and launch it with your Python script that you generated, like I showed to you using the trace, or you can modify that script like you want. Okay, let's get back to the GUI. Let's have a quick look at the Python code in itself. So if you remember, I created this macro, and this is the actual code that was generated. So it looks like a lot of code, but actually it's not so much, because a lot of unnecessary instruction are written into this file, and you have a lot of comments actually explaining what this does. So really, I think Kitware did a very good job to explain all those functions and add those comments. So it's actually very easy to understand if you just take the time to read what this does. So like every Python script, it starts with from importing a certain module, which is here the Paraview module, a simple module. And then it calls a certain number of Python functions which do some stuff. First is to disable the automatic camera reset. So we don't really need that. Then the sphere creation, as you can see here, is a very simple instruction. It's just I create an object called sphere, which is basically equal to this function, sphere, with parentheses. That's how you create a sphere object. And then you create a render view that you associate to the active. So you basically take the active render view. Then you show on this render view the sphere that you created. Then you assign a bunch of properties to this sphere. So those are all the properties you see in this window on the left: representation, colors, etc. And then you can add some transfer functions, you can add some filters. Okay, the filters are done after that. And then there is something important here, which is the update function. So once you change the property, you have to update every time. Otherwise, your object is updated, but not the view. So, so you have to render every time you update a property, you have to update. This is, I think, equivalent to clicking to the apply button here. And here, this is for the creation of the sphere, and here you have the creation of the filter. And the process is basically the same. So you see the sphere is also some kind of filter. The clip is also some kind of object, except that the clip has an input. So you see clip, input, and it has the sphere object created before in it. Before there was nothing before that. Then you assign a bunch of property to this clip filter, and you update the view. So what you may wonder is, okay, there's a bunch of functions, but how do you know which function is which and which function does what? Well, the first answer I would give you is, well, just use the trace. That's an easy way to get this kind of code, so you know exactly what is the code. Second answer would be take a look at the documentation online. There are a lot of details if you read carefully what is written in it. Something else you can do is using the help function. So help, and you can use, I think, Paraview.simple. Let's try that. Yeah, and if you do this, you will have a bunch of information, really. A lot of stuff to read, which is directly written in your Python shell. So you don't even have to go to the website. You have everything here in the help. So you even have a simple example which shows you in a few lines of code you can actually do what you want to do. And by the way, let's just try this simple code to show you that you can basically use the prompt very simply without having to have all this kind of complexity. Let's reset all this. Let's clear this Python shell. And let me show you. So the first thing you need to do is from paraview.simple import all. Okay, now that you do that, let's create the sphere. So sphere equal, and also you have auto completion. So if you click on tab, you'll see all the functions available. So really, you don't even need to know the exact syntax. Okay, I have a small mistake here. Okay, so now I create a sphere, and you see that it appears into my pipeline browser. So the object has been created. But it's not shown. You see the small I is not activated, so I can use show to activate it and show it on the screen. And I can use another function like reset camera to make it bigger in full screen. So those are some basics options, and I could do the same for the clip. Just take the sphere, or if I want to change the property to a sphere, okay, sphere dot, and you see the name of this property is theta resolution. So let's try th tab. Auto completion is here, so really cool. 20. And then you just have to render all that to see the change. Okay, and you see that my parameters has been updated. So what I'm just trying to show you here is you could totally control your model from this Python shell. So that's just a simple example to show you how this kind of Python code works. It is not a full course about all this because there is much more to learn. But I hope this is a good introduction for you because I couldn't find some good material or videos about it online right now. If it does help you, if you find this video helpful, please give a like to the video and help me to spread this knowledge. I like when people learn from my content because it takes a lot of time to build and to create. And thank you very much for your attention, and leave a comment if you have some time and let me know if this was useful for you. Thank you very much and see you next time.